Hello and welcome everybody to the first of two, although we won't see the second one for quite some time, map videos. As with the previous LP with regards to Red Alert, and I guess Tiberian Dawn before it, although more specifically in video form for Red Alert, we'll be going through each and every one of the GDI campaign missions just to see what exactly is behind everything. So this is quite a blast from the past. This is the first mission in the GDI campaign. And I'm going to be showing also the different tools here. On the upper left, we can see that this program is called Final Sun. As far as I'm aware, it is the main tool that people use to build maps and help build mods and such for the game. I could be wrong on this. I'm not super current on anything regarding extensive mods, such as Tiberium Insurrection. I know that was a huge total conversion, so not entirely sure if it involved Final Sun or to what extent, but regardless, this is what we have today to play around with. Some interesting things to note. First off, there's a section on the left that just has a bunch of items, things to change, things that you can put down, and then you go about modifying things. As with the previous video or previous map videos I did, I'm not super familiar with the tool itself. I don't have any particular interest in building maps myself. Call it a failing if you want, but I've always been more of a person that enjoys the custom stuff that people create rather than having the ingenuity or patience to perform it myself. Regardless, we've got some handy little bits and bobs that we can play around with if you're so inclined. Creating slopes seems to be fairly easy. Lowering ground, also easy to do. Checking the map, hiding tile sets, and checking for there was a hex grid one. Anyways, there's some options there available. Also, we've got all the different save features. As always, edit has your usual stuff. We've got a lot of properties here to check. We'll be checking them periodically through the video, so I won't get to them right now. But basically, edit has just about everything you'll want to look for. You have terrain, obviously, map tools, which should also be fairly obvious with what everything says. Sun Edit 2K, I have no clue. Online, obviously, for some help and home pages to stuff to support people. There's also some extra stuff in the options. As far as I'm aware, the beginner mode just hides options, and settings, I believe, is just for how it'll translate into Tiberian Sun. There's also a couple other things in the help, but we're not going to look at it. So first things first, we will go to map properties. So this basically designs the sides of the map. I have no clue what visible area specifically relates, other than I can imagine the grid reference. So 2 grids, and then I guess 10 from the top. Let's scroll up. Yeah, so probably 10 from the top. Go all the way to 44 as the bottom row, and then 47 being the last one on the right. That's about all I can assume. I'm sure if somebody knows more, please correct me, because just for sake of accuracy and what have you. We go to basic. Basic has a couple other things. I feel like there's an issue with the maps in CNCnet. I could be wrong. I feel like if I check this in the original version, it'll be different. But I guess for clarity's sake, I extracted all of the map files from the CNCnet version. So, and the one culprit that I point to specifically is the alt next scenario. I know that's the alternative, so it's not supposed to be like you'd have to have like an alternate objective, which we won't see for way later. But I believe this might spark an issue because there's a level in the Nod campaign. It's very far away, but it didn't seem to trigger in the way that I thought it would. There's obviously some important options here, such as end the game. So obviously this won't happen until the last mission. Skip score stats is interesting that it's available, but I don't recall it being used other than for. Actually, you know what? I don't recall it being used. One time only. I have no clue what it's for. Skip map selection, obviously. Official, I guess, is just if it's an official map. Not sure why. Not sure why there's a distinction between the two. One would imagine that you would just like why I don't quite understand how that's supposed to interact with the code for the game, but it's available as an option. Global AI triggers. Create for destroyed trucks. We've seen those before. Create for destroyed trains. We've seen that at least once. Percent, I don't know why this would exist other than maybe if it's carrying over from a previous mission. Growing Tiberium obviously makes sense and something pretty vital. Veins, ice. Ice will be interesting once we start seeing it. This is interesting that this is an actual option. Voice roads being created if something dies in Tiberium, specifically if it's a infantry or some ground unit that isn't protected from the effects of Tiberium. More or less because I think I had actually done that in the first mission and there was no Viceroy and I kind of wanted to show him off early. Free radar makes sense. Initial time, not sure why that's there. And add-on needed seems strange. Next thing we have up is special flags. So I'm not entirely sure how all of these relate to special circumstances or under circumstances or certain circumstances, whatever. I assume it has to do with it'll be toggled with or have to relate with flags. For example, it seems weird that meteorites is a no, but there's an event here that will spawn meteors. So maybe it means meteors as a random event during a multiplayer match. Not entirely sure. We also have lighting. There's been some information about how, or at least talk in the thread about how Tiberium Sun was a project that was heavily invested in. They tried to do a lot of crazy stuff with it. Notably, the time of day was supposed to change. And technically it still does in certain missions. You can see that there is a change in the environment as a whole on the map. For example, when it comes to the ion storm levels, there's clearly a difference between when there is an ion storm and when there is not. And lighting, among other things, plays a big part in that. It's interesting that there's also different hues that you could technically achieve, provided you do it properly. After that, we have single player settings, dropships, which again, I don't know why this is at 0 if there's supposed to be some. Inherent timer and fill silos feel like retro things that we've already seen in the previous game. Red alert. So we also have movies we can toggle. There are some that will be from the expansions, so thankfully they're all titled and not named. And you can do a bunch of different options. So I actually really like this because it gives you at least 7 possible videos to go through. So I don't know. That's a lot of options if people like to produce their own videos. You know, it's cool that you can just like slot those in fairly easily, it seems. Houses. This one is going to be really tough for me to really talk about, or maybe it's the next one. Yeah, so the human player, GDI, what's the current house? So we've selected GDI, so that should be the first one. Um, IQ is how good the AI is, I believe, when playing as that specific group. I think this is supposed to determine which side of the map that your units would come off of. For example, the air units, the dropship that comes in, I think it's either that or just you need a side of the map that you quote unquote control. Um, Current house is GDI. There can be several GDI players, it seems, but it's the caller of GDI. We'll see some different colors being used. I think we saw a couple during the campaign, but we'll see some as well in future videos. Different allies. So obviously, if there are some neutral units, some civilians on the map, they will be marked as neutral, so on and so forth. How much money you start with. This is interesting because it means that you can have a non-player act like GDI, and I believe that's supposed to be. I don't believe that's tactics-wise, but I could be wrong. I have no clue what node count would be. Sadly, technology level is at what level can you build stuff? So technology level 1 should be up to a barracks. I believe 2 is war factory, 3 is radar, and anyways, it goes up in that sequential way. Build activity, I have no clue what that's supposed to be. And player control, obviously, is fairly self-explanatory. I have no clue what local variables is supposed to be, other than the triggers, I suppose, for the map in general. So there was a trigger for the barracks, like the text for barracks. There's just kill all text. Refinery text, so the text I explain why you should put down a refinery and it collects resources. Gas leak, I have no clue. Drop pods, obviously we see that at the start. Not destroyed is the overall mission objective. Barracks build triggers the text. Refinery build triggers the text for that. When you begin, bridge destruction, which we'll see soon enough. And no name, which I can't imagine what it's for. Yeah, gas leak doesn't. Still don't know what gas leak is all about. Trigger editor. I have to point this out. Trigger editing gets really complicated. I'm not gonna go through everything one by one. I'm gonna try and figure out which triggers exactly are super important and what we should be paying attention to. This is all on the fly, by the way, so apologies if I miss anything that seems or that is critical and I just gloss over it. It's really, you can get this game for free, or maybe not anymore. Maybe not Tiberian Sun, but you can get this for very cheap if you haven't already gotten the entire collection. I obviously definitely would promote Tiberian Sun. I absolutely love the game, even if it's very old, showing its age by this point. But for me, it's still fun. And you'll be able to, by doing so, you'll be able to check all the triggers if you really want. Obviously, these triggers come with a name, what house it should affect, if it's repeating or not. Is there an attached trigger? So you might have. Let's see if I can find a. What about lose 2? No. I'm trying to see if I can find one with an attached trigger. There we go. So the first force drop trigger happens, and the attached trigger is the drop shits that will come down. It's cool that there's actually triggers that will affect only one or more types of difficulties. Sadly, I've never found one through casual looking, which admittedly hasn't been a lot, but I haven't found any that only apply to one specific difficulty. So hopefully I'll be able to spot one in the wild, and we'll be able to look at that in greater detail. Obviously, note that there are several tabs, so obviously these will also have coinciding effects. So we can check event after 23, not sure what the value is, could be seconds. After the elapsed time, that's when the trigger occurs. Thankfully, there's a handy little tooltip that tells you, at least helps you with the wording as to what that means. There's a lot of triggers, so some like spy upon is just if you gain line of sight. From what I imagine, thieved by would be if you can get like a chameleon spy or some other units in there. Discovered by players sounds like a lot like spied upon. Destroyed, no factories left. No factories left would have been cool because you can easily add that to a all hunt or whatever, but sadly that was not seen at all. I don't remember. Maybe actually, you know what? I think in the second mission was that. Whatever. Point is that you can have that as an event, and then in the actions, it will force a trigger. So no matter what, it will force the dropships to play out regardless. You can also see some other things like winner, obviously, production begins, all to hunt. Number 6 was dreadfully unused in later missions of the campaign. Fire sale, triggers, destroy triggers, play music, global timer set, global values being set, make ally, ion storm, and so on and so forth. We're still not done. That was the trigger editor, my bad. Tag editor. So there are tags in the game. So tags make trigger work. If there's no tag, a trigger's useless. So yeah, it's adds complexity to the entire mission scenario, however you want to call it. So pretty interesting. Again, there's some repeat triggers if you want. You can tie them to certain triggers, but we're not going to go too in depth with that. Script is kind of what we've already seen in previous installments of the Command & Conquer franchise. You have stuff like move to base, and it's move to waypoint. So the first action in that script is to move to waypoint 9. Sadly, the text is in a terrible, terrible font in this, but we can see, I can't even overlay it. There's a series of 9 red circles, yellow to the top left of that, if you can see my mouse, that is waypoint 9. So whichever units must move to the base, they go over, get to trigger 9, and then something happens. Again, there's other things too, like guarding a cliff, how people should react, or what their guard mode should entail. Oh shit, which I can't imagine specifically what it would be, or what it relates to. Probably the meteor strike, but waypoint 42. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother looking super in depth in these because, yeah, again, the font is really, really bad. I really wish that was different. Task Force again is like previous installments in the franchise. Airborne Rangers. What does it provide, or what does the dropship drop? And we see one dropship comes in. That's the main task force. It comes in with 2 light infantry, 1 Wolverine, which are actually labeled as small mech. That's why they're called SMECs. Actually, you know what? I forget to click that. I don't think that's going to reveal too much. I don't think that's going to reveal anything, really, but still. Teams, again, same idea as the other stuff. Teams just declares certain units, what they should do, how that relates. They're fine with running around and dying. Units that come out of transports are recruitable, so they come under the control of the player, so on and so forth. AI triggers. This is something that I'm not going to touch at all because there's stuff that you can do in it and stuff that is involved, but I have no clue how it works, and we don't have any at the moment. So I'll check in the next map just to see, but not the kind of thing I want to mess with. Um, I mean, the AI trigger types here kind of explains a bit of it. Um, it's like, okay, well, how many non-engineer pool? They should have an engineer pool, so they'll create, an engineer to hold in the background or whatever. That's what I assume it's talking about, anyways. And then you have the ini editor. Not something I really want to mess around with either, just because I have absolutely no clue what most of anything this is supposed to 100% do. This part, at least briefing, I know. So the basically this is what will show up when you hit the restate briefing button. You'll just get a blank, like the previous, like in Red Alert. You get the blank background or static background, and then it flashes this text from top to bottom, and then you can read it. So, enough with the all the different things going on the background with the program. Let's get to the map finally. It's only been about 20 minutes. So, we can see with the map, we start off, we've got our dropships drop down, we have some cyborgs that'll follow, shoot at some guys, and then we're forced up to the top left where you get our base. We can see that there's just a small smattering of units here and there, not too much to deal with. It's a small map too, so there's not much to really be able to explore. It is strange that there's some white over here, but it's off map, so interesting enough with these two very old buildings. I would have missed this had I not played this level like 100 times at least. It's just interesting that they're there. It kind of like off the beaten path, and it makes me kind of wish that there was more to the right. But in an intro level, you can only expect so much. Similarly, I always expected there to actually be something on the small bottom right portion of the level, and in fact, I was able at least once to get across with units. In fact, I think in a test run of this LP, I actually managed to get a unit across the bridge. It had something to do with just going really fast and somehow not triggering the meteorites as quickly as they normally would. I feel like I got to the T in the road with some Wolverines, and I ran them down, and they get a speed bonus on roads, so maybe that had some effect on it. Regardless, I always expected there to be something on this island. Excuse me, I'm getting the hiccups here. I expected something on this island, but sadly we can see that there is nothing but sandbags. I kind of wonder if there was some position that they had created and then removed in a later revision. Jumping right into the second map in this entire thing, we can see again some pretty simple design, but otherwise not too much to talk about. Again, interesting that there's so much space devoted to the top, and yet there's nothing there. At least it changes the just the general layout that you're playing with, just with all the hilly terrain, and it kind of automatically limits you to where you can build, which is nice that it's not just simply sand and spices. Again, we can see on the map, on the top middle portion, there is supposed to be a bridge, but sadly you can only repair it from the not controlled side. I believe there's a trigger to have that actually be a thing, but not sure. The major triggers or effects in this mission are the fact that the civilians get evac'd, the SAMs being blown up, and not being destroyed. There's a couple some text, but otherwise nothing too serious. It's not a super complex level. Once everything is destroyed, there's a number of buildings that get marked for sell, and then once they're sold, that's it. Yeah, there's a lot of... See, this is kind of the problem I have with this editor, is just there's everything here. So it's kind of hard to pick needles in a haystack with all this information being thrown at you. Um, Regardless, there's obviously a lot of detail that has to go into every map, even if some of the portions, large though they may be, kind of remain unused. For example, having this waterfall here that you can see the edge of, and then another fall down here. You know, the water flows nicely, but uh, creates a lot of dead space nonetheless. Mission number 3, we get some. This is actually so the way that maps are numbered isn't it's sequential, but they get alphanumeric variables attached to them. So this won't be 100% in order as to how they should be shown. I apologize for that, but that's just the way that the naming conventions are, and I don't want to go, back and forth, up and down the list because my tired brain will not remember specifically where we are. So this is a mission after an optional one. We start in the bottom left after we see a train move northeast and get zapped by lasers. In my experience, that bridge is always supposed to explode. I don't think it's possible for it to not do so. Interestingly, there is the cliff, which I used. But if you wanted to, you can easily take some Titans. You blow up the lasers, which are fairly easy targets. Then you just walk in. There's like no real protection to the rear side of the base. You can get an engineer into the tech center, which is one of the objectives. The second one being the Skrin ship. I don't know if that's the proper pronunciation, but I'm sure we'll hear way more about them in later games that are totally not obnoxious. If you hear me drink, I'm sorry. Going through these long videos, I need to stay hydrated. So again, pretty simple. Interesting that the nod forces get an advanced base, or at least like a little outpost. I always appreciated that sort of halfway point because it gives you something to capture because you can't expand naturally, or at least not at that distance. So nice of them to do that. We can see that the Skrin ship has a lot of protection, although a lot of it seems to be anti-vehicle rather than anti-personnel. 2 buggies, of course, but that's not usually a huge threat with the proper amount of destroyers. Interestingly, there is the section of the bridge that's already pre-damaged. Not that I ever use that myself, and that the train can actually make it off map. So it seems that this is a trigger that you definitely want to pay attention to if you happen to be playing this game. Yeah, so train kill is the start. The tech secure is when you capture the tech center for the nod. Site secured, obviously. When you get close, it reveals it. Begin to play. So, because you don't immediately start under control, there has to be that trigger, I'm assuming. GDI arrived, obviously, is when your units finally come in. Or it might be related to the video that plays in the top right. But maybe this is related to it instead. You can see some different values. Again, these seem to be the corners as to like width and height, but yeah. So I think it's 2 off the left and then 65 from the left to calculate the height or width, and then so on. Which is I don't know, it's kind of a strange way of doing it, but not my game, so obviously I wouldn't be able to do better. Alternate cameras, alternate starts, car kills, go trucks, so that's the trucks that go between the 2 areas that we destroyed at one point. Nod train. So after a certain amount of time, there's a train for nod, and they will eventually drive off. there's anything interesting here in triggers at the moment. Sure. 3+ Titans. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, it's interesting that this is an actual thing. So if you control more than 3, oh yeah, if I control more than 3 Titans, it sends stuff after you. So on and so forth. And nothing seems to apply only for one specific difficulty, sadly. Special flags, none that are super different. Task force, yeah, some basic stuff, locomotive, etc. 3B is the optional mission that you're supposed to do before the previous one we just watched. Your units start in the top and the bottom right. You make your way. I never actually explored to the middle right of the map, so I didn't actually notice that that looked open. Not that it would have given much. I kind of always expected some sort of like destroyable cliff to build a ramp, but alas, it's not the case. We can also see that there's the extra border, and I believe it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that trigger redefines this area, because the map does expand. Regardless, so with the map, we went forward, we captured the first radar, it spawned some reinforcements, then we came to the bottom left, went back around, captured the second relay, went over and around, up to this top portion, destroyed a truck, killed some people, and then went up and west to eventually get to the train. It actually makes me wonder if you get here without unlocking the higher portion, if the train gets off the map that much quicker. Not that it really matters, I guess. This is also the first map that triggers Titans. Once you get Titans in this mission, it's basically over. You don't have to do anything else. Non-forces don't have anything to destroy the bridge. There's nothing that they have that can shoot it. And as far as I'm aware, there's no trigger that destroys the bridge without you looking at it. The bridge explode is not something else, or it's not what you think. It is actually the bridge that we saw get blown up because of the engineer that runs into the car that drives onto the bridge that blows up. Loading the train, fairly self-explanatory. Laser blow-up is the laser turrets and what happens once the Titans finish blowing those up. Several objectives, power gun, some warnings, so on. Oh, and apologies if you can hear my mouse. It's a new one, so I'm kind of breaking it in. One of the reasons why I do not record live, because you're just going to hear a lot of clicking and noises in the background that, frankly, I'd rather not want in the video. Day for night is really interesting because it shows specifically that there are attempts and indeed actions in which the game goes from a lighter to a darker period, implying that there's a day-night schedule. And honestly, if there's no way to have a criteria where it's like, oh, the game would naturally react to whatever time of day it is, that's perfectly close and fine enough for that sort of mechanic. And personally, I love it because, you know, we have this technology in 1999 or 98, and I feel like there are plenty of RTSs that make no real attempt at like diversifying how the environment looks like, even in 2019. So 20 years later, we're still not really exploring certain things that could be done. Well, nothing seems to be standing out, unfortunately. Power overload, so once we destroyed the power, it overloaded the turrets, so those exploded. Player hint, some text, GDI versus spotted, falling back to alert base. mech drop was obviously medium mech drop, so that's when we got Titans. Should be when we got Titans, anyways. Reveal waypoint parameter 1, so it should only happen once. Anyways, so we can see that there are triggers, obviously. Again, going back to any editing, a lot of stuff I can't or don't want to mess with. I should also point out that there's, and I don't know if this is specifically with regards to the CNC version of the maps that I'm using, but you'll notice that there are several sections where there is no brief or no briefing. Made it so I had to actually extract a separate file from the main files just to get the briefings out, or alternately start the game and get to open that specific scenario and then open the restate briefing, which was slightly annoying to do before I started just doing it the easier way. Map 4. I guess technically this is 5 out of the 18 that we're going to see total. The Scrin Defense Mission, one that you will never see anything outside of, say, here, down south, and nothing really past this water purifier item. Sadly, right-clicking this does not... There we go. Double left-click does brings up some information. But yeah, so this is enjoy it. This is stuff that you will never see during actual gameplay because you're too busy actually defending your base to do something about. Interesting that Nod is completely gone here. There's no destroyed buildings, no nothing. It's just all gone. I suppose GDI really wanted to sell everything themselves and make a ton of cash before getting back to the alien spaceship. As well, it seems a little weird that they've got units. I don't know if these guys are specifically set to always be guarding or if they're used just later on, like they eventually move from point A to point B. But it's interesting nonetheless. And it's kind of cool to see that they actually did want to continue with where they left off with the map. It's just kind of a little disappointing because that's kind of all you ever get. And you're never going to see anything up here, so it's kind of just sad because it's kind of wish there was a little bit more going on with it. I'm not sure if this is a texture bug where my mouse is, because it's clearly has to do with the tunnel that goes underneath, but I'm not sure if there's supposed to be something special indicating this cliff status, or if it's just how that's displayed in the game normally. Sadly, I don't think I have anything else to refer to for it. I believe Nod repairs this bridge at some point, but I've never seen them actually use it regardless. So, or maybe I'm just thinking of the previous map, but still. 5A, destroy the Nod radar array. So we start in the middle left, we work our way towards the right, sometimes with minor incursions up north, and eventually you unlock enough units and things to take out the main relay of 4 radar sites. Again, point out that there's some dead space, quite a bit of dead space around here. And stuff that there's no reason to explore. I think a really good example of that is this entire lore portion. The first, God knows how many times I played this mission, never knew or never bothered to explore down south. And because I never did, I never got to this cliff. I never went past the cliff into this little section that gets you ambushed, and so on, never getting inside the base from the rear. I think at some point I just had played this and I just figured I'd check the entire map, see if I can find anything interesting, and I kind of went the reverse way and realized there's an alternate path in there. Not too much to really talk about this. Again, because of the way that scripts work, it's just kind of hard to line stuff up differently. Got our arrays being destroyed. I'm not sure what B1, B2, or B3 specifically stands for, other than maybe ambushes. And these are just the different subterranean APCs that coming out the ground. We got the Beast Growl, which is obviously related to these Tiberium Fiends. That's 0. Oh. See, that's another thing too. It's kind of wish there was some other way of notifying a player. I guess maybe if I double click now? No? Ah, hell. Oh well. Local variables, burrow, relays being destroyed. What happens when the subterranean APC groups die? The beasties, which I can only imagine is the Tiberium Fiends. What happens to them? Transports. The transports will flee. So after they deposit their guys, they run away, which is what we saw. And stuff like the Hand of Nod being activated. So this being activated and being able to produce stuff. Attach tag stop soldier, and it should eventually turn into production or something similar. Not too much to talk about. It's interesting that we see a Tiberium Vein. I believe this is the first time we see a Tiberium Vein. And it's revealed in such a slow way that sadly I kind of wish there was a better placement for this, because you're not going to, while you don't have too many units, there's no incentive, I guess, to move your mechs up here to take out this relay, but maybe I'm just overthinking it. And obviously I'm biased by having played this mission, dozens, if not hundreds of times. I hope it's not secretly saving stuff, because it's not asking you to save anything. 5B is what happens, or should be the map that follows once you destroy the radar array. So we can see we start in the bottom right. We move off. There's a gas station, where you can. The tick tank is dead, or at least asleep. Should be asleep in its status. It's also not full HP. You can recruit it with the hijacker. There we go. This is also in a sleep mode. The tick tank is on a guard, so technically you can still grab it, but whatever. The Tiberium Fiend is called the Beasties because, of course. And it has its own AI and how it's gonna walk around and do stuff. Interestingly, you can give it a veteran status, or at least by the nature of this editor, there's nothing that says you can't give it veteran status, so it'd be interesting to see how that truly affects a Tiberium Fiend, especially since I don't believe they have any cost. Technically, I guess everything has to have a cost, but I don't think it would. I can't imagine how that would impact that unit. As we move southwest, we can see that there are 2 Tiberium Fiends. So I remember when I was playing this level, I mused a little bit about how it is possible to see this and say, hell no, I ain't going through here, or I don't know how I'm going to. And cutting across to the south, destroying this cliff, and going down into the Tiberium Fields, which is entirely possible. It bugs me that there is no... I kind of would have expected that you'd have a separate entry point in this mission, because honestly, I can understand if maybe you had some units that were really weak, you didn't want to lie around in the Tiberium Field all day, so you said, well, I'm going to go around. Going around is kind of long. You have to go up north. After going up north for a long time, you can go back down south and follow the water. And then eventually, you finally make it in. It would have been interesting if you could start, say, on this side of the map. And maybe, push southeast rather than southwest. Also interesting that there is a engineer repair or bridge repair hut on the opposite side. I don't think this would ever come into play because I can't imagine anybody being able to move out from this side because you don't get an engineer at the start, so you can't repair this bridge hut, so you can't move into this main area, which means you can't move to the way southwest. You can't take advantage of this one field, and you can't go back up northwest. Realistically, the Nod forces actually get the best access to Tiberium in this level over the player, of which there is a whopping 96,590. I'm not entirely sure why there are red Tiberium things. I can only imagine this is a quote-unquote glitch and is the result of a blue and green being stacked on top of each other. But I could very well be wrong on that. Looking at the local variables, we can see what happens when Trados escapes. Not quite sure what water run is going to be. Prison alerts, some outposts. What happens when a bunch of people die. And player has orcas, some light mech stuff. What about trigger editor? Again, a lot of stuff, so sadly won't be able to really look into everything. And it also bugs me that these on-map triggers, I don't know how to check these. I really don't, so it's kind of annoying for that. I really wish I could just double click on them and know specifically what they're all about, but won't happen. So, and yet I can drag and zoom across the map with right mouse click. So whatever. There is nothing that states this drops anything, which is disappointing. I'm gonna have to try and remember which map it was. Oh, I apologize. I'm just yawning all the time now. The workday is catching up to me. I'm gonna have to check to see. I think it was Hammerfest that had a Second National Bank with money in it, and see if there's anything different in anywhere here. I don't believe it's the case, but you won't know unless you check. "5C should be the same map, but is what happens when you don't do the radar array first." Right, okay, so here's a perfect example. When you don't do the radar array, or when you get caught, I guess, and I don't know if you can lose a mission like radar array. Anyways, we can notice one main thing. The first bridge, southwest, is destroyed, and you actually have to go towards the main node base, which forces you, again, to... there's a different setup in its laser position. Well, just one extra laser, really. But you're not going to really... I don't see why you'd risk going out in front of the base. So you'll probably destroy these, kill these three, 4 guys, and go up northwest, and then do the incredible long trek around. And it makes sense this way to have to actually go the water route, because otherwise you're going through 2 buggies, which isn't too tough, as well as the 3 infantry. You can go down into the Tiberian fields, destroy this cliff. These guys clearly have waypoints to get inside, destroy some stuff, and then eventually Trados gets rescued. And I can't imagine where specifically the transport would show up and drop, but there are still triggers on the top right of the map, which I will take as being specifically for the map building stuff. Because otherwise you're cutting it really close to the Nod base, and I just don't feel like they would ever have that be kosher. Regardless, interesting to actually see the such a difference, because I can tell you from experience, I have never played this mission. This version of the mission is one that I always skipped because I always did radar array, because the guide always told me it was better, and I believed the guide. Destroying Vega's dams. This one, as you know, if you watched the video, there was an issue on it, specifically that I did not fulfill the objectives, although I still won. So, go figure. We can see there's that one trigger that's super weird. Number 12 generates some backup, which is on hard difficulty crucial. And I really cannot understand why it's in such a weird spot, because nothing indicates that you should go this way. It's also the first level we see that Devil's Tongue, which is set up on the top here to be kind of a menace, or at least a foreboding, warning sign that, oh, there's this crazy vehicle that is going to be part of the regular enemy's repertoire from this point on. I actually really like the intro of the Devil's Tongue. Kind of wish that other games had that same sort of style to it. Moving on, we can see that, again, we get back into the city. We can destroy a couple SAM sites, some tick tanks. You don't want to destroy all of the SAM sites because they'll spawn some guys to come down. They get blown up. Somebody pointed out, and they're obviously absolutely right, specifically because they had video data or whatever to prove their point. You have to kill this rocket infantry, but more specifically the SAM site, because you don't want them to take out the transport, because the transport has an engineer, and the engineer can come over and repair this bridge site, which allows all your units to go across this bridge around this outcropping, which you would never really think to do because of the fog of war and all that. Then you come down, destroy this cliff, go into the underground tunnel, come up specifically in the rear of the base. You've already got a couple Titans, blast through the cliff, destroy the laser turrets, capture the base, and then do whatever. And by do whatever, I specifically mean destroy the regulators. And I don't know why that's an actual thing. Oh wow, I can actually move stuff. That is a weird way of doing that. But you want to destroy these regulators at all costs, because not doing so means you're going to not fulfill the mission properly. It'll give you a win condition, but it won't actually give you the effect of that win condition. And I don't believe it has to do with just like the map types that it was from CNC version. I think it's literally just I didn't complete the objectives as they're supposed to be done. 6B being destroying Vega's base. If you destroy the regulators, then all these SAM sites come offline, and everything just comes in, and all your reinforcements come in right away, which is actually super handy and a much better way to play this level, rather than having to go around giving Nod the time to build up his forces, but also just wasting yours. At the extreme south, we can see that there's quite a lot of power available to factories, which you can easily steal if you so choose, although I don't know or remember if it gives you too many options. This is the first level you can see that we get to see artillery, and it's not artillery and Devil's Tongues are not going to be available for building for the allied player, unless I'm mistaken, which I may be. But if it's the case, then you need to get a radar and some extra stuff, which you won't come across just yet. There's a lot of dead space thanks to all the water, but honestly, I actually really like this level, the way it's designed. If I had one gripe about it, it's maybe specifically related to the southern portion of the map, which I feel could have maybe used an extra outpost, maybe like put a hand nod down here somewhere, a couple laser turrets to defend something, spice it up a little bit. Because at the moment, it's just kind of exists, and it seems weird to me that Vega, who's lived on this island for God knows how long, has infested a Aztec or otherwise ancient ruin, and has a sprawling base everywhere else. Just seems like a weird oversight for him to completely neglect his south position. Obviously, he was on drugs, so maybe that's the excuse we can give for him. But personally, I believe drug users should be cognizant of their own weaknesses. Are there any specific things? I'm not quite sure what Test Dam bit is supposed to be about. Sam's being up, main Sam's being up, so I would assume on the main on this main island versus the ones that are here. Any trigger? Yeah, so if you begin and the dam is clear versus, or the dam is destroyed versus if the dam is fine in the previous level. And for whatever reason, this is marking it as the opposite, dam destroyed. But what if I go in dam destroyed? Oh, okay, right. When specific global is turned off. So, again, if you don't clear the dam, then that's the specific events, reliant on that will apply, and not the other way around. Still no mission or difficulty specific stuff, sadly. And we can see that when it comes to AI stuff, it starts getting way more complex. Interesting nonetheless, but unfortunately not something I can really expand upon just because of my limited knowledge on these sorts of things. Moving on, we have map 7, which is Hammerfest. We start at the bottom middle. We can see that there's quite a bit of territory to cross, and honestly, again, really like this map. I love the use of all the space and how there's still quite a bit of character on the eastern portion. It serves its purpose. It's nice. It can be a little challenging with the power plants that you don't know to destroy until you potentially lose a vehicle to the Obelisk of Light. You go up north. It's tense. You see a new base. You make your way all the way up to the top, wrap around, come into Hammerfest, come into control to Hammerfest, and then start dishing out the pain to the various Knot forces in the area. And nothing is specifically important on the eastern side as long as you, I guess, at least destroy it. And once that's the case, you no longer have to worry about it ever. Again, some pretty nice stuff. Also interesting to see is specifically this. I can't click it. There's upgrade, or not an upgrade, but at least like a health or something pack up here, which is interesting. The Soviets, or Soviets. The Nod forces have quite a few artillery pieces to begin with, but they don't wake up, obviously, until there's a specific tag for it, which won't happen until Hammerfest becomes captured, or more specifically, under the human player's control. As always, there's a lot of tags and triggers that there's only so much that we can look at. Moving on to map number 8, another single installment, we have the crystals. Recover the disruptor crystals. Now, for those who remember the video, I basically did the world record strategy, which is go south as far as you can, wrap around west, you basically run or drive along or float along, whatever, the rivers, the river bend, come up behind, destroy a couple of things. The train will be waiting for you because it spawns up top at the left, and then makes its way to the broken bridge. You can beat this level in it was a minute and a half flat, something like that. It's a lot of fun to actually do the speedrun strat, but and this I think I maybe only triggered once, so I completely forgot about it. There is this checkpoint up north, which I guess is just a fun little gotcha. You tried to get around here, not gonna work. But if you fail to destroy the train in any capacity, Nod eventually gets an engineer to spawn on the southern portion of the map. They go over, repair this, and now you're off to the races and have to basically get to the train and destroy it. It should stop at waypoint 25 over here. You come over here, destroy the train, and capture its secrets before it can drive out the map. I believe it has something to do with, I believe the excuse is that it is quote unquote refueling versus maintenance or anything else like that. So again, interesting. I actually kind of like looking at this. I like the layout of the map. It proves to be kind of tough. You can see that there's several lasers all over the opening perimeter, some tic tanks strewn about, and a couple of obelisks of Nod for some added punch to their defenses. SAM sites, more or less just along the train tracks, but nonetheless, still cool to see. Also interesting is that I guess if you had amphibious APC, you could run it along the water, have them come behind everything, and then you can just drive into the enemy base and capture their construction yard and some other tech. Or if you really wanted to, just get 3 amphibious APCs, have one in the back with all your important units, come on over, unload, and then destroy the train. Let's see if I can actually find that map expansion thing, because I didn't look for it in the second map. Reveal 2, start sunrise. Okay, well, it might be linked to the bridge being fixed. Lapse time, action, disable trigger, fix bridge. Nope. What are about tags? I don't believe I'll be able to find this out. Full max house. I really wish that this was named something that made sense. maybe something like map size. Just play it out that way. Instead, it doesn't seem like it's going to want to play ball. Let's see if maybe I can find scripts. I don't think it'd be scripts. Definitely not going to be a map. Nope. Apparently there's an ion storm in this map, which, damn, now I kind of wish I'd seen, because I don't think ion storms I've never seen an ion storm trigger for a snow map, so it kind of would have been interesting to see the color contrast on that one. But alright, well, I guess I'm not just not going to see it, so sadly. Maybe someday I'll play this level, do it poorly, and just see what kind of things pop up, but not this time. And also, oops, wrong map. Mission number 9. We saw this one. I did the northern route. I have never seen this in my life, and I cannot believe this is an actual thing. You get a barracks, a war factory, a power plant, and an amphibious APC, which presumably you could just load with a bunch of people, and then just I guess, I don't know, drive it all over here. Okay, beware the tick tank. I guess you could just drive south, or not, go so far north. But then, why is this a thing? Why is there this? Okay, sure, fine. You unload, kill this cyborg, but then what? You can't... Oh my god! Okay, so... You have to be kidding me. That's a thing. That is a thing. And it's only up the northern part, so you have to go north to even know that exists. Whew. Alright, this is why we do these videos, guys, guys and girls, because my mind is friggin' blown at the moment. I was wondering, okay, well, maybe there is something with Waypoint 54, you can drive off the map with your amphibious APC. I doubt that's going to be the thing, but this is nuts that you can actually come over, drop your people off, destroy the cliff, come in through the back, and then, just destroy the bridge by, putting dynamite in the repair hut or whatever. That is crazy. That is absolutely nuts. But do you even start with engineers? Yeah, you start with 2. So, why would I never think to repair this bridge? I can't imagine. I literally can't imagine why I never did that. Okay, so anyways, I remember people mentioning, and I know my guide also mentioned it as well, to tell you to go south. It seems like a really bad idea because these guys do have spotlights. They will sound the alarm, as you can see with the tag. So it seems really weird that you'd want to get discovered pretty much pronto. Then I suppose you go across this pond, just north, but then immediately go back south because you want to skirt that map edge, or else you're getting the attention of this artillery. You can't attack this group because, again, artillery. There are a bunch of Nod buggies that probably not something you want to touch. This Nod tick tank, which I think is poorly placed because I feel like his projectile is just going to hit, the cliff edges, or at least the depressions. And then another artillery next to a bunch of power plants, which I've never seen in my life as well. This is something that just never saw. I was never going to see. And I don't believe these have any importance because these 6 are way more than enough to power a couple of laser fences, 1 turret, and some SAM sites, which they again seem to have their own power plants, so it doesn't really matter all that much, anyways. This is still mind-boggling. Triggers. Some alarms, backups. Backup is obviously the cyborgs that keep spawning in. Call hunters would be the mutants. The bottom, call orca, obviously is for the end. City traffic is just those neutral units moving around. Prison bus delivery. Oh, I wonder if after a certain amount of time, so a vehicle spawns, or maybe like one of these, like this guy or whatever, probably wakes up. One of these has to be it. Anyways, it sounds like there's a vehicle that gets created, moves over here, and then I guess collects these mutants, and then like drives off somewhere, which is pretty nuts. Because I've never ever seen that happen. Team type number 4. Let's see. Teams. Prison bus. Where do you go? Waypoint 33. Hey, they're veteran, apparently. Or maybe that's just the default. Yeah, probably just the default. Yeah, prison bus. Waypoint 33. Again, this font and color is so terrible, I cannot tell whatsoever. Well, anyways. Regardless, interesting that there's actually a vehicle with a crate up here. And that's pretty much it for this level in particular. Let's go with 9B. Solidly in like this last 70 or 75% of the way done. We can see this is, again, the first mission that technically you'd have access to Tiberium missiles if you weren't a doofus like me and actually captured this the facility first and then started eating the Tiberium vein and these ones as well. Again, I used to always build on this portion, so I'd mine out. I'd like destroy all these like neutral buildings and build a super compact base, and then eventually like dig out this blue Tiberium and then replace those areas with buildings. But yeah, never was something I did in the LP. I found this flat terrain and just rolled with that recording footage. Never knew about this flat area. I guess technically you could use it, but it seems like a really bad idea. There's no, especially with no Tiberium tree. Destroying the cliff face gives you access to the Tiberium veins. It's just kind of cute. And then all of the some mission critical items here. Although the artillery being positioned the way it is, it kind of makes it tough. Although I guess technically, like if you were to build your base up here for whatever reason, at least you'd have an easy way to get like jump jet infantry to just come in and spray and pray a lot of that stuff. Yeah, some pretty interesting stuff. A lot of power. If you can manage to get in here, destroy this power, that's immense. I suppose the idea would be to, if you ever built up here, is get some amphibious APCs, destroy those cyborgs, super easy. Destroy these critical buildings, super easy. Come in through the water, and then you have easy access to all these power plants. But probably easier said than done. We also have this special bonus portion of the map. Apologies for anybody who did not know that this existed. I'm going to blame the fact that I had the guide and not that I'm Galaxy Brain equipped to know that this was ever there in the first place. You have to cross the entire bridge before you hit the trigger, and the game generates some mutants and a ghost stalker and tells you get ghost stalker into this train. You will unlock a special mission, which is super cool. Kind of lame for anybody who missed out on it, but that just means that we are going to the cool level. So one that obviously I never fully explored just because of the me never thinking about it. Holy crap, is there really one of these here? Okay, I need to know if I can capture this. Destroyed, character killed, I'll see for set, entered, ghost eyes, let me out. Oh, let me out, right. That was if once the train arrives, everybody ditches. Huh. There's gotta be something. There's gotta be something to that guy. Why would they just have... You can't just have a devil's... Okay, I have to replay. Thankfully I have saves of every mission. I have to replay this and come over here because I want to see if this is an actual thing. And like, is it just neutral? And I use the mutant chameleon to or mutant hijacker to get into that, or if it just like comes under my control. Because I mean, hot dang, that'd be funny. Also, I need to know what this trigger is specifically. Southeast response. Okay, what is southeast response? Obviously, it doesn't show up there, so I have to go to the tags. Southeast response. Response Y. This is the only reason I hate triggers like this sort of thing. So response Y, house GDI events. If it's entered by GDI, actions. Create a team specified by the house of this trigger. Tank responders. Okay. So if I go to tags and sorry, teams. I have to go to teams. Tank responders. Carjack Phoebe. Whatever. Tank responders. Nod gets task force 10. Yeah, okay. Aggressive. Priority 20. But what do they get? I mean, it's probably tick tanks. Duh. But, you know, I'd like to know. Whatever. I guess I just won't know. Specifically, anyways. So, yeah, in the mission, we get to a certain spot. It reveals some stuff. We get to another spot. It reveals more stuff. Plays some sounds. We get to the end, or get near the end, it reveals. We get to the end, we start getting attacked. AI is triggered to, or told to only attack the train rather than all the people inside it. And hey, we can see this harpy. So, I'm not sure if you could capture it with the mutant hijacker. It may be something I'll test out as well in the bonus video. And yeah, apparently you can, attack from either side. It's probably, you know what it is? It's probably these three guys. They're on, this guy's on waypoint 20, which is at least 20 I know was on one of the tags. So maybe these guys just shuffle down southeast. Alright, that's pretty cool. Line D. A very wide map. We can see that the starting position is always garbage. I don't like the starting position. And then it opens up. And, if Nod starts out with this base, if you don't do the objectives, that's what happens. That's why these things are grayed out. Because this is a kind of global value. If it exists, they'll spawn here. If not, they won't. Which is what we saw. But I kind of wonder if these guys could get artillery and place them up. Because that would be hell to try and clear out. Because you can't go from the back. Or at least you can, but, I mean, going over this bridge is just painful. And hey, look at that. Second National Bank has a crate. And can I? Nope. What if I do move that? Damn it. I cannot, I absolutely cannot move that. There. I can't see what's in the, what's in that crate, which is very disappointing. All right. People pointed out that I was being silly and I'd forgotten about the timer, which existed, which I wasn't paying attention to. Yes, the timer does deactivate some stuff around here, which is why they all went out of power at a certain point. A lot of Tiberium for the enemy, a lot of power, so a lot of redundancy there. Really have to destroy this entire power plant park before you can even have a hope of starting to reveal their stealth generators, which makes it strong. I actually like that. I like the fact that the AI is actually given a proper amount of redundant power plants just in case something does happen. Interesting to see that there's not too much in the way of anti-air defenses. Specifically, just the major concentrations around the construction yard. There's one or two down south, and an extra one up north somewhere. But otherwise, jump jet infantry kind of going to be your friend in this one. Even for this first base, other than this central SAM site, seems like it's going to be a favorable thing for the player to utilize. Nod 2 here, obviously, is the trigger for this extra base. Or at least, I'm going to presume this, because screw it. Then we got this next mission. So this one was locating the facility. I believe this is the one I played. Yeah. Not a super fan of the layout here. Sure, you trigger, you can get like mana tanks, or you can get at least one, and then keep using or reusing the mutant hijacker. But other than that, it's kind of just meh. Also, the huge amount of dead space really bugs me. I always enjoy the fact that there's cliffs everywhere, and that like the terrain is kind of broken, so you kind of have to pick and choose where you want to go or how you want to build your bases and stuff. But having, I feel like this first position is a trick, and one that would only exist for newer players, and one that's just really annoying because, like, imagine building here and then you gotta move the entire map before you even get close to anything. You have to cross the entire thing before you get anywhere. It's just kind of gross. This wasn't the... No, yeah, this was. Okay. Don't know why I keep seesawing on if this is the one I played, because the other one's actually, like, fairly different. Yeah, so anyways, kind of a... Not a huge fan of this design of that map. The alternate version, however, is supposed to be the tougher one. This is, you start in the bottom right. There's Banshees that start off, you fly up north, or northwest. Interesting that from the get-go you wouldn't think of it. I might be drawn towards going straight west rather than going straight north. But going west, you can reveal a base. Then you can keep going west if you want into another nod base, which is a bad idea. You'll probably die real quickly. Not quite sure what 33 is all about, because those guys are super far out of the way. Bring in the heavy mech, which is clearly the Mammoth Mark II. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it gets tougher in Final Sun, or at least Tiberian Sun, to find out what does what, unless you start cataloging everything. So yeah, you can go west. Obviously, that's the bad decision because, unless you go over this bridge, I guess, but you wouldn't really think of it. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd go I'd go down, but whatever. So you go up north, cross some Tiberium fields, everything seems hunky-dory. Go west, destroy a cliff face, take out a couple guys, super minimal. Don't go into the Tiberium vein patch, go into this one up top. And then it looks like you go into the gate, haha, you're fooled. You have to go down this cliff, or that slope, go all the way west. Go down, realize there's a huge wall and you can't go there, so you destroy, you go back up, you destroy that slope, then you go all the way down, and boom, you're finally behind everything. And I guess this isn't a bad position because, one, you're super close to the factories, so you can get in there quickly if you want. You can go destroy this radar array if you want to. You can destroy these SAM sites, which theoretically could give you access with an Orca carryall to bring in a mammoth tank. And I think the general consensus is that this map is actually super easy to clear out before other ones, which makes sense, or before the other version of this map. The other version is allegedly, because I can only go off of what I guess like reviews or what the strategy guys say, but generally the opinion seems to be that the previous iteration of this level or scenario type, because the previous mission is easier to get to the manufacturing facility, but harder to complete the overall mission, whereas this is the opposite. Getting here is a chore, and as we can see, it does actually involve quite a lot of movement around a lot of patrols and some tough hard point areas. Because yeah, you're not gonna find this with this stealth thing on. You're not gonna find this, so that's pretty dangerous. And again, you go all the way around, you eventually find this base, and then as long as you can take out even one corner of this, you're kind of good to go. Nod has access to some pretty good Tiberium deposits. I assume you'd start in the top right. I could be wrong. Don't really know where else you'd start though, so you probably start here, and then your Tiberium your harvesters just have to go up north. But still. Anyways, that's a pretty cool difference. The penultimate level, Weather the Storm. We've seen this before, obviously, but just the way that it's built seems fairly straightforward. Some dead space here and there, nothing too bad. Some very annoying artillery placement, but overall, could be worse. I like the minimalist nature of this base. It's super cramped, and the way it's set up, I like it. Obviously there's a lore reason for it to be the way it is. I don't remember this artillery guy being there, but maybe I'm just forgetful. It is annoying though to have to face an AI with 4 harvesters, because they're prepared. They're basically always getting money in some form or fashion. Local variables, pretty easy stuff. Triggers, Ion Storm. Yeah, so Ion Storm starts immediately, runs for 9,000, which I can only imagine is seconds. Game frames, okay. It's not, I kind of wonder how many game frames are in a second. Then it stops, and then Iron Storm 2 begins. So you get a 4,500 frame difference. So basically, the time between the first and second Ion Storm is equal to half of the initial Ion Storm. So that's pretty cool. And then it lasts forever. Or at least until that timer runs out. And I can't imagine how much time that would have to be. So I kind of wonder if someone has ever drunkenly decided to play that game or the level forever. We can see the rather minimalist nature of this first section. trigger editor. A lot of mission timers. Yeah, when I was talking about how each nod appears to be a different entity, this is kind of what I'm talking about. There's clearly multiple, up to 4 different nod players, quote unquote, that are all acting together. And it's kind of obvious that the Alta Hunt, boy, I wish that had been more obvious. Old GDI mammoths. Yeah, always fun to see those. Starting reveal. Oh, there we go. Resize. Perfect. Local. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So this is exactly what I was thinking it would do. Is that it resizes and it takes every value and changes it to a different one. So first time it opens, top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I don't have the count right. Anyways, so 9, and then right 80, so on and so forth. And then resize 2, it changes that to be higher and bigger. Well, the top seem to be the same value twice, so I don't know if there's just a difference between, I don't know if there's got to be something else there. But specifically, it seems that it will change a very small amount of values to increase the size, which is actually really cool. And I love the way that's implemented. And I really wish that there were more games that took advantage of that sort of thing, especially in the RTS genre. But at the same time, I will admit that I have not been playing too many RTSs in a recent decade. Yeah, mission's pretty tough. There's a lot of triggers all around. It's funny to me that they actually take this city. I should point out too. I actually learned this really recently. All of these buildings that have names. So Leitner's Luxury Suites. I don't think Urban Storefront specifically. Connolly Court Apartments. A couple others here. Archer Asylum. Yeah, Urban Storefront is not one. Ambrose Lounge. Bostic Tower, I think, is one as well. Hewitt Hair Salon. And I don't think High Rise Hotel. But there's a bunch of buildings in the game. Can I... Other. There we go, yeah. So, on the left, we can see there's a bunch of buildings here. Daily sometimes is a joke. Coca-Cola is obviously a joke. So on. But a lot of ones like a Yee's Discount Liquor, Ambrose Lounge, Hewitt Hair Salon are actually all named after certain people. I don't believe High Rise Hotel is one. But they're all named after people on the development team. Eat at Rade's Roadhouse is another one, I believe. Caspim's another one. It's interesting that I don't believe you can actually customize what kind of text they would say, though. So it kind of limits the amount of fun you can have in the editor specifically. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Deployed ICBM. Huh. That's weird. Let's actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna have to. If you've recently come from a cut, I accidentally showed off some bad stuff. So, yeah, this is why I don't go digging into here all that often. Nothing. There we go. All right. So, getting back to the mission, and I've somehow killed my mini map. So let's see if I can find it again. I know I had it, and this is going to bug me, because now I can't figure out where the minimap is. Oh well. Anyways, all to say, this map is pretty extensive. There's a lot going on. It's a lot of fun. I like the fact that the Nod forces are pretty much everywhere. It sucks a little bit that there's a little bit of lack of things on the map. But honestly, this is me complaining in 2019, and I can only imagine how taxing this mission must have been for old computers. It would have been cool to have maybe a little bit more greenery around here, some doodads, and maybe some Tiberium fiends. Why aren't those around? Type idea. But otherwise, it's a very fun level. I particularly enjoyed it, especially playing on hard. This entire campaign, just like the Nod one, will all be on hard. So it's nice to see that the sort of difficulty being not too bad. Someone asked if the artillery would be able to hit everything on the map or on this island. I don't think this is a landable. You can't get anybody there. I don't believe you can't set up artillery on slopes because like Tic Tanks, and MSA. Well, excuse me, and MSAs. You can't deploy them on slopes, so these wouldn't work. If they're up here, they might. Not here specifically, but if they're up here, they might be able to touch it, at least like portions of this, not the entire thing. It'll be tough to find something on the western side, maybe down here, near the bridge. This is some dead land that can't have anything there. Here is fine, here's fine, but again, when you're setting up here, you might be able to hit like up to the construction yard, you could make some space here, take out these. I'm not sure how far these guys, if these guys could touch ICBM, probably. And then down here shouldn't be a problem for the Hand of Nod and the obelisk. So technically, yes, if you had guys everywhere around it, you'd be fine. But honestly, if you're investing that much into getting artillery and having them surrounded as a fun thing to do, sure. Otherwise, the Orca bombers, really. Or like jump jet infantry, or amphibious, APC, or Orca carryall. Like, you've got options. This is GDI anyway, so I wouldn't specifically go the artillery route, but it seems like it could more or less be possible to do so. Anyways, really hope that you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I will have the Nod stuff up rather soon. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.